Boy, I'll tell you what, everybody who's listening today is in for a real treat. We have got the original crew in here for the podcast today. We've got our mother and father, James and Jennifer Wright, the original crew, back together to record a podcast. For any of y'all that don't know, Blake is dad. Blake is a miniature dad, and I am a miniature mom.
Is that out of desire or is that accurate?
No, it's accurate. But Mom, what are some things that Blake got from Dad? I'll tell you one. He can talk to people. He's good at talking.
Oh my gosh,
to people.
I never talk. What are you talking about?
No, but when you have to, like, relational conversation, you're like, Dad's the same way. You can go out to a job site. You can talk to somebody on a phone. You can meet somebody.
You got that from Dad.
No,
I don't enjoy the small talk. Dad can get along with anybody. Talk to anybody.
Now we'll back that up. When Blake, he's been talking since day one. Talking his sleep. Anyone will tell you he will talk all day long when he was younger.
Well, that's what I told Nanny. I got all my talking out of the way when I was a kid. So now I don't talk no more.
That's what I do.
You got that from Dad.
All right, we'll move on. We'll talk about that later.
The reason that me and Mom aren't good at talking to folks, as far as like a relational conversations with strangers, is because we're no bullcrap, man. Mm-mm. We just say whatever we think, and a lot of folks don't like that much about us. But we just say what we think, man.
They'll tell you that at work about me, direct and to the point. I don't do a lot of fluff and stuff.
Well, we're thankful that you guys decided to come on. The Bible says honor your mother and father, and you'll get some long life out of that, right? Isn't that what it says? So we just want to honor you guys today and talk through some of your experiences in life and being a husband and wife, but a mother and father too. And for anything, I'm happy about getting to sit down and do this for my own personal records, because we generally, as a family, we all stay so busy. Now we got kids in the mix and everybody's going all different directions, and we don't have a lot of time. We don't make a lot of time to just sit down and talk. So it's pretty cool. My first question for Dad is, I want to know, what were you trying to do when you flipped off of that bicycle and busted your back? Tell me that story real quick.
Trying to show you how to ride a wheelie.
What happened? Tell me that story.
That's not a good one.
Couldn't move out of the road either.
Yeah.
There's a car coming.
I was just doing a wheelie, and I went too far.
Man, I remember what I thought about this yesterday when he was up riding the girls around. He said, "I'm the original. I got this." And I remembered he was cutting donuts on my 400EX out in the gravel road one day, and he come slinging the rear end around, and it caught the concrete apron of the driveway and shot him up into a wheelie and into the bank. And I thought, yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen right here.
What were you like, the wheelie king back then?
Still am.
Well, you did used to be pretty good on a dirt bike.
Still am.
What was that the initial injury that messed your back up?
No, I had problems before then. I think that helped it.
Because I never, which we were young back then, but I never remembered you having like complaining or having problems or being down with your back until after that happened.
Well, like I say, that probably contributed greatly.
Yeah. Okay. I had a question for Mom too. Oh, Mom, I wanted to know, since Dad wouldn't tell us the full story of why he was out there trying to ride a wheelie and what happened when he pops his bike back and then gets stranded in the middle of the road.
You got to ease me into these podcasts.
Mom, you tell me a story. What were you thinking when you made me run? What was it, 6 or 8 miles for a backpack? What was your logic behind that?
Well, the logic behind that was, gosh, how old were you? 10, maybe? But the point was you wanted this backpack, this some skateboarding something. And it cost like $60. I remember how much it cost. Because back then that was a lot of money. And I thought, well, I'll just tell them if you can make this 6-mile loop with me. It was, on the trails, Kennesaw Mountain. I said, if you make that loop with me, you have to run the entire way. And you can't stop. And then I'll buy you that backpack. And the thought in my mind was, okay, so this is going to be a good way to get out of buying it. He's not going to pitch a fit, and we'll be done with that. And so we were running along. We're getting a couple miles. Ugh. He's still keeping up with me because I didn't slack on my pace or nothing. Well, maybe just a little bit. But so running, getting a little slow around 4 miles, coming around that loop. And I'm thinking, okay, I got him. He's going to walk now. And I tell him, you want to slow down? No, still running. And coming in towards the end, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, now I'm going to be out $60, which I really don't have to spend on a dang backpack, and made it all the way. And I sure enough had to buy that backpack.
Yeah, you did.
I thought for sure there's no way he's going to make this because you hadn't run anything except for run around and play and ride that skateboard.
Yeah. I'm going to say that's when I first figured out that I might be a halfway decent runner. And you were literally doing that just to get out of buying a $60 backpack?
Yes.
You didn't even know you were teaching me a wonderful lesson in life.
No, I was trying to get out of having to pay $60 for that backpack.
That is absolutely hilarious.
Let me ask you one. What was you thinking when you shot the minivan with the bow and arrow?
Well, I was thinking I want to see how far I can launch this arrow across the yard, and when I hit the side of the minivan, it didn't go well. Because Dad came over and proceeded to take my bow, my little stick bow from me, and he snapped it over his knee. And that was the end of my bow shooting until we got a little bit older and got some compound bows, and that didn't even last very long.
You backed the lamb bolts out too far on mine, blew up on me.
Yeah, I backed his out too far, and he went to draw his bow back, and it came apart, came back and hit him in the face, busted him all up. I mean, we were rough, son. We were rough.
I believe it. You can't have anything nice when you have boys either. You might as well take that out of the mix.
Well, you guys both, I say we were rough. We Blake and I actually had a wonderful childhood. We were never abused. We were always protected. We were always provided for. We always had enough and even more than we needed. Thankful for all of that. We really don't have... We didn't thankfully didn't have to experience trauma and things like that in our childhood. You guys did a wonderful job. Even looking back, as a kid, I can never remember seeing you guys argue.
Yeah.
Never. I never remember seeing you guys pick up a beer. Never heard you say a single cuss word. I mean, the whole time we were growing up, I can distinctly remember the first time I saw you guys argue, and y'all had a big falling out about something, and I guess you couldn't hide it, right? But other than that, you guys really kept us isolated from the bad, I don't want to say the bad things, but from just the struggles that every married couple goes through. You know what I mean?
I think that's what you got to try to do. I mean, everybody's going to fuss and argue and stuff of that nature, but if you don't need to drag the kids into it, you do that when you have opportunity, when y'all y'all are not around, everybody's going to fuss and argue. Even probably Blake and Kat fuss and argue.
Oh, everybody does. I lost my temper the other day. Yes, I'm not perfect, contrary to some people's popular belief. I lost my temper today on QuickBooks. That's another time. I say I lost my temper. I just about pulled my hair out.
You about blew a fuse.
Did you? But did you guys like make a pact in the beginning to not do those things?
But here's the thing. I think it's healthy for kids to see you to have an argument. Now, not just a knockout, drag-out argument, but I think it's healthy for kids to see minor arguments or disagreements. That teaches them how to solve those as they get older. And you saw some of those, but they weren't anything major where you would remember a traumatic thing. But I've got a good story on an argument.
No,
so,
we're not going to go there.
Yes, we are.
No, we're not.
So one time we were really upset. I don't know what we were arguing about. I can't even remember this day. So
this was before y'all was born.
No, it wasn't. We had, it might have been just Chad, but we drove in the truck to get away, and left you with Nanny and Poppy, I guess.
This needs to be edited.
No, it doesn't. And we're going down there and we're arguing and turn over and look at him. He's got this big booger hanging out of his nose. And I'm busting out laughing. I don't think it's very funny. I said, oh, but it is funny.
It ended the argument.
And I think God put that booger in there for a reason.
Well, and my point is, we had a wonderful childhood, but you guys didn't necessarily have the same opportunities.
No.
To have the childhood that Blake and I had, and I just want to go back and talk about what it was like for. We'll start with you, Dad. What it was like for you growing up, how it was different, and how it shaped you into the father that you became for us.
Well, I think I had a pretty good childhood. We didn't lack anything really. We just, some things obviously that come along with my brother getting killed in an accident and stuff like that changed my teenage years. But up until that point, great parents, never missed a meal. I had a normal childhood until that.
Yeah.
And then things just sort of spiraled out of control, and I really wasn't right in the head until I met your mom, which must not have been right in my head by meeting her, but I'll just play it.
So funny.
But no, she sort of grounded me. We were still kids, 15 years old, and she sort of grounded me, and we got I was actually in church before I met her, but then she came along and she started going to church, and then it's just a weird, I don't want to get too far out, but our spiritual life has always been sort of crazy, because either she was on fire and I lived wrong, or had backslidden, or whatever you want to call it. So at very few points in our life, we was equal being spiritual. So, but no, that was a real traumatic thing. So I dropped out of school, and
I wanna talk about that just a little bit, because we've never really sat down and talked about how you worked through that. Obviously, Randy is Blake and I's uncle, Dad's older brother. We never got to meet Randy. He passed away in a car accident. How old was Randy?
16.
And how old were you?
13.
13. So tragic and just unimaginable thing to have to deal with, especially at that volatile time in your development as a young man. And we've never talked about what it looked like, because when Randy passed away, you didn't have any other brothers and sisters, so it was just you and Nanny and Pops.
Well, and we was real close. So, I mean, it wasn't
You
like,
and Randy were super close.
oh, yeah. He would, you know, he could drive. He would take me where he went, whatever. So, you know, and it's 1,000 wonders I wasn't with him the night that he got killed.
Really?
So, you know, it was tough. It was real tough. And, you know, Mom come along 2 years later, but those 2 years seemed like 10 years, you know. So it was pretty hard. I know what it's like when people lose someone close. I mean, it can have a traumatic effect on physically, spiritually, mentally. I mean, it affects your whole life. So, yeah, but outside of that, yes, my childhood before that was great.
Yeah, yeah. Well, those 2 years that you spent before you met Mom, I mean, what did you have someone to look up to? Did you have a mentor? Did you have somebody that was helping you? I mean, how did you get through it, man?
Well, some of his friends come around and helped. Big Nick, remember Big Nick? You know, he would check on me and
wow,
take me places here and there. The Davis boys, Glenn Wood, Charles. You remember Charles?
Yeah.
His older brother was Randy's best friend, so he would come around, but it didn't really matter because I didn't want to do nothing. I mean, I just drawed in a shell, and I didn't want to really do anything. Just wanted to be alone, and but there were people trying to help, but I just wanted to be left alone and deal with it on my own. So, not real good at feelings.
Yeah.
Talking about deep feelings, but it was really tough. And, you know, you lose a loved one, you don't ever get over it. You just learn how to live with it better. So that's,
especially your best buddy, you know, and he was your best buddy.
And the only reason I didn't go with him that night, he was going to the drag strip, and the only reason I didn't go is because I just got some shock covers for my dirt bike.
No kidding, man.
So I wanted to stay home, put those on. I had some new hand grips, and I thought, you know, man, I want to get all this thing decked out, and I'm just going to stay home. So then I stayed. So I just said, no, I'm not going. So, you know, that there again, that was intended by God, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that was put there to keep me from going. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I never knew that. I never knew that that's what kept you home that night. Wow, man. Thanks for sharing that with us, Dad. I've never heard that part. And I want to pause there for you, and then I want to give Mom the opportunity just to talk a little bit about the struggles maybe not the struggles, but just what it was like when you were coming up. If you want to talk about the struggles, that's good. If you want to talk about the good stuff, that's good too, whatever. And then I want to bring it up to the point that you guys did meet.
Well, I grew up with two alcoholic parents. We moved around a bunch. It was not easy, especially for Phyllis and I. There's 4 girls. Phyllis and I, Phyllis is the oldest, and then I'm 18 months apart. So it wasn't always good. It wasn't always easy. I know when Chad was the first child from anywhere, first grandchild, first everything, and when Phyllis and I decided to start having kids, we decided right then that we were going to be a pact with each other. And if we saw, you know, there's some good things about my parents that we did learn, but there's some things we made a pact that we were not going to do. And that's the biggest thing I always try to share with people, regardless what kind of childhood you grew up in, you have the power to make those changes if you choose to. Is it easy? No. Do you always make the perfect decisions? No. However, you can make that change. if you decide to.
Mm-hmm.
So that, it was rough at sometimes. Money, growing up in family of 6, of course, you don't have as much. I think that's why I showered you guys with so much. You want the kids to enjoy what you did. I think what I brought away, something that was good from my childhood, is a bunch of traditions, Christmas traditions, holiday traditions. Now, I didn't grow up in any kind of church, and I know it seems hard to believe, but I know with the young man that you had that experience with the other day, I didn't get saved till I was 17. I knew nothing about anything. I know that seems, people maybe watch this said that's impossible in the United States, but it's not. I knew nothing. I didn't know the Christmas story, Easter stories, none of those. So
Yeah. Who, as far as your, you had a lot of siblings growing up. As you guys came up and you guys were experiencing difficulty in, whatever the scenario was, whether it was abuse or having to deal with the alcoholic parents or the constant moving, who did you bond with most, and how did you guys work together to endure those situations?
that was the one thing that I do get jealous of is having a best friend or something like that. I never got the ability to have that because moving around so much. And I was sexually abused when I was younger. I was 10, and I pretty much dealt with that on my own, and covered it up with the only way I knew to deal with that is to drink. So I started pretty early, and I didn't know anything else. That's what I saw at home, so that's what worked.
Yeah, it's all you had to cope with it, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's all I had. And I remember one day trying to tell my sister about what had happened, and the guy was a neighbor, and he actually come up, and that's a whole other story. But
That's a lot.
So
that's
so I didn't have
terrible.
anyone, so it was on my own. So I learned to be very independent. Phyllis and I didn't really. We were two different things.
Really?
Yeah, she was into drugs.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't mind me sharing that. I mean, mostly like pot and marijuana and stuff, and a lot of rebellion because of the moving around and this, that, and the other. And so we didn't get together closer. We were closer when we were young. Than the teenage, we split apart.
Okay.
And then reunited when we were in maybe our 20s.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
well, here we've got two different people coming from two totally different family dynamics. How in the world did y'all end up meeting each other?
Well, before you get to that, really, to touch things that happen in your childhood, parents need to realize this, do carry over into your adult life.
yeah.
I mean, just like I remember, and I don't guess we're going to get into this, but I'd told you during the traumatic time when I was away from the Lord, and I told you that how much it hurt when you went back. You would come home and visit, and you'd go back, and I told you, and you took it as I was trying to cop out, and I wouldn't. But I said, when you go back, it tears my heart out.
Yeah.
I said, and you said, don't give me that. Don't give me. But see, the deal is, and Mom will tell you from, and a lot of it, I've got a law enforcement background, so some of it comes from that too. But when you experience loss, like when y'all was kids, I drove her crazy about watching over y'all. If she went anywhere, it was like, you got to be with them. You better not take your eyes off of them. Mm-hmm. So, and even through some hard times with me and Mom, we went to counseling for one period of time, and that's the counselor's the one that made me realize it, because he brought it up. You hadn't got over your brother's death. You can't experience loss.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's because I never dealt with it fully or what, but anything, the thought of losing someone, I mean, all the way up through our early adult life was traumatic. Mm-hmm. Really, later than that, because I mean, and Mama's the same way. We worried about you like crazy if you was on deployment.
Yeah.
So you carry over those traits that affect you, but you've got to put them in submission. You know what I'm saying? You've got to fight those.
Yeah.
You can't let them overcome you, because if you do, that's who you'll become. You'll be you'll worry yourself to death. You won't be able to have a healthy relationship. You won't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you'll be a product, simply
Yeah.
a product of the trauma that you've experienced in the past.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
you've got to, you got to learn how to deal with that and push that out. And your mama's experienced some of the same things from her childhood. So those things do come with you, and they really, I mean, I don't know no way to deal with it other than the Lord. That's the only hope for something like that.
Well, Dad, as I work through stuff in my own life, just kind of whatever you want to call it, a post-traumatic stress or whatever left over from my service in the SEAL teams, I think one of the most powerful things for me in dealing with those things from the past and how they're affecting me in my relationships with others today is I think one of the most powerful things for me has been to at least identify what is causing. All right, so I have an issue. I have multiple crazy. They're not huge things, but they're just little personality traits, right? And you think, man, I'm a little bit weird, right? But then when you can identify what to link it to, and you see the cause of it, when you can just call it out and identify it, it helps take a lot of power away from it tremendously. And I don't know, that's not fixing it, but I learned that stuff about myself in counseling. Somebody will help me. I'll tell them what I'm doing, and they're like, "Oh, did that ever happen back when you were in the SEAL teams? Like, did you ever feel that way because of something?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's right, I did." And then I identify it. So sometimes it takes that third party for me to point it out. This is what it is. I make the connection, and then once I identify it, it helps me tremendously. Not that it necessarily fixes it, but it helps me at least approach it in a more healthy way when it comes up. I
think that's a good point. But the only way to really and truly, I don't even think until here within the past few years, I mean, you can't get rid of it unless the Lord gets rid of it. So you got to put it in the Lord's hands and let Him take care of it.
But it never goes away.
Well, it never goes. Well, to an extent, it don't. In other words, things don't affect me now the way they did 20 years ago with that.
Yeah. Yep. I never knew that was one of your bigger struggles and one of maybe the cause of a lot of tension throughout our childhood. The cause of maybe a lot of tension between you and Mom and y'all's relationship was that traumatic loss that you experienced with your brother. Makes total sense to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, it does. Yeah. It makes total sense to me, but you just kind of brought that to light for us here. So, but bringing it up, coming back to our conversation, you grew up in Michigan. You grew up in Georgia, Dad. You guys totally different cultures, totally different everything. Where and how did you guys meet, and what happened?
Well, so he dropped out of school. I was still there, and his friend Big Ed claimed that he had a girlfriend or something, and James was okay. Well, let me see her. So he comes over to the house, and I'm outside, and James said, "No way." He didn't believe it. Of course, no, I was not.
Now, if you're watching Big Ed, no offense.
Yeah, no, I wasn't dating Big Ed.
I don't know if Big Ed listens to the podcast.
I don't think so. Yeah, that was a little too rough cut for me. And James,
were you hanging out with Big Ed or what?
Well, at school he would follow me around and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
And me and him was childhood friends from way back.
Yeah, and I was afraid of him because he was like huge. I mean, he'd like,
Yeah, he had a beard in like the 9th grade.
Dang.
yeah. And I was already adjusting to, you got to think of my childhood too. Only one time did I even experience going to school with even black kids. It's just how it was there.
You're talking about in Michigan?
In Michigan,
Okay,
yeah. And of course, we moved all around the place, but yeah. And then all this southern backwoods, I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was actually afraid of them. So he brought him over there, and then James wanted me to go on a double date with him and Ed and his girlfriend that he had at the time. No, I'm not.
Dad wanted you to go on a date
Yeah, Daddy wanted me to go
You
on
and Ed?
Me and Ed.
with him and his girlfriend.
Yeah,
Then
with
she
him.
chased me from that point on.
I think that's backwards. Yeah, because I was dating another boy at the time, and so he cut in on the other guy, and that was that.
Well, darn, Big Ed. Poor Big Ed, man. He got roped
the
into
wrong
this
end.
whole thing.
Yeah.
He was the originator of it all. Have y'all ever thanked him for that?
No, I
Well,
don't think so.
Charles played a role in that too.
Yeah,
My buddy Charles.
Yeah.
'Cause he lived down the street, and him and Jenny was friends. So when I found out she didn't want to have nothing, that she wasn't going to date Ed, so I sort of pursued her, and Charles was my in to get me in down to see her
yeah.
because they was friends, so I could sort of tag along, and
Well, and I was still dating that other boy.
yeah.
Yeah, and I made more friends. I was kind of like Brooke. I had more friends with boys than I did girls.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very direct and to the point. I'm not prissy. I'm not, I'm not in someone that likes drama, all those things. I don't want any part of that. So,
Well, I think it's an interesting thing we should point out also that you guys were born on the exact same day of the exact same year.
now wait a minute. He's 2 hours older than me.
All right. Dad is 2 hours older than Mom. So when you guys met, how old were you guys at this point?
15.
15.
But I had a new car and was driving.
Oh, yeah, that's why I went out with
So
him.
what, were you just an outlaw or something?
Yeah. Her mom and dad couldn't stand me.
You just
Well-
so you quit school, got a new car, and was driving at 15.
And working
And
full
that's,
time.
That's illegal, right? Because
Yeah.
you couldn't drive at 15 back then either, could you?
That's right.
So you just went full out. You had went full on outlaw at this
Exactly.
point.
Rebel.
What kind of car did you have?
A white
Trans Am, 80 model Trans Am.
I'm sure it was always clean too, wasn't it?
Perfect.
Oh yeah,
I wouldn't even take her on a date if it was raining.
Dad has always been a car guy, and it's actually a shame that he doesn't have a car now because,
I think I need to get one. I think that
well,
we can work on that later. So.
I don't think so.
Dad always had, even as we were growing up, that was Dad's thing. Always was he had a really nice muscle car, and he won the car shows and did the whole circuit, and that was always his thing. So I could only imagine how he was when he was 15, running full outlaw.
Except for that
And-
old truck he had that you were playing in and put it in reverse, gliding down the driveway. I never ran
Oh,
that
yeah.
fast in my world life.
Yeah, I did do that. So when you guys met, and you guys decided to start dating, how long did y'all date for long before you decided that that you guys were gonna
4
like,
years.
be together for
4 years.
Well, 4
Well,
years before we married.
4 years? No kidding.
Yeah.
Got
How-
married when
how
we were
was that?
19.
How was that 4 years? I mean, what were you guys? You guys weren't living. You guys were still living apart from each other, or
Well, yeah, we met when we were 15, got married when we were 19.
19? But 4 years is a long time. I mean, were
We're
y'all
not gonna move in
Oh,
with
she-
Were
each
y'all
other.
hanging out a lot? I mean, were
Oh,
y'all
yeah,
spending
we
a
were-
lot of time
Yes.
together?
Yeah, my parents really didn't like them, and I don't blame them because I'm thinking about after I had my own kids, I wouldn't have either.
He's full outlaw, man.
Well, yeah, and dropped out of school. And,
I got my GED.
yeah, but
They still didn't like it.
well,
And which back then was a acceptable career path, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I went on to, I did the the drafting stuff, and
Yeah.
I mean, you could go to college or whatever with a GED.
With a GED, yeah.
But yeah, that was. I guess I was a little rough. I was a little mean, and
Yeah.
So you were a fighter, weren't you, Dad?
yeah,
Terrible fighter.
I liked it. That's why I got in law. But to be honest, why I got in law enforcement,
Yeah.
I thought, well, if I have to do something to some guy, then hey, But there again, I was just turning 21, still sowing my oats, and just loved the scuffle.
Do you think too, though? Do you think that going back to, I know you said when you were really in that stage of depression for that 2 years until you met Mom, and then did that kind of pull you out of that depression?
Yes.
But okay, but was there some anger still there from the past?
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Oh, he was a fighter even before me.
Well,
Okay,
yeah. I
so
mean,
you always were there.
Yeah.
me and Randy would fight.
Elementary school.
And the kids would hide in closets and stuff when we'd get to fighting because our buddies, because they would get rough.
So there's no undercurrent to the fighting. You just like to fight.
When,
I'm glad you I'm glad you keep a sore back.
well,
But
He'd be fighting everybody.
there's no fight in me now except for Jesus.
so you guys are dating for 4 years, which is a long time. Obviously, Granny and Grandpa don't like Dad, which is probably causing a lot of problems for you.
Oh, yeah.
But Dad is doing better because now he has you, which is kind of helping him out of that place that
I think
he
it
had
helped the
been
whole
in.
family as a whole just
Okay.
kind of fill the void.
So when you guys would hang out, would you just hang out at Nanny and Pops' house?
Most
Yeah.
of the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what you do that for 4 years? Any good story? Anything you want to share from that time?
Or not that I can remember.
Well, what eventually when you got 19, I guess, what made you decide to get married? I mean,
I wanted to get out of Dodge. I wanted out. Of course, now
so
James.
you were ready to get out of
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
house, yeah.
That's the only avenue I knew out. And of course, now he wasn't ready to get married. He wanted to still live with Mom and Dad and have all the money and the cars. And I remember we were getting married and we had to sell some truck he had or something. He was mad. He wanted to stay home and live with Mom and Dad still some more, but I persuaded him.
And what were you doing for a living when you guys got married, Dad?
Surveying.
Okay, so you and Pops were surveying. What were you doing, Mom?
Well,
She
I
was
was
still in school.
well. No, after
Yeah.
after I graduated, I was working for a CPA firm.
Okay.
So that's where I was working to start with. And then I went to work at the bank. And then, of course, when you came along, we did what we had to, did without a few things. And I stayed at home and did daycare so I could keep you. So,
When y'all got married, did you immediately know you wanted to have children?
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I know I did.
Uh-huh.
He took a little more persuading. It's funny, we were talking about that last night. I said, how long do you think you would have waited before, what do you think, we'd be 40 before we had Chad?
Why didn't you want to have kids, Dad? Did you just
Well, you
like to
gotta
play and spend money kind of like you are now?
Well, you got to look at it. I started policing. You was born when I was policing at $6.06 an hour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So just like probably anybody, even in today's time, that'll pop in your head is, can we afford to have kids? Well, if you wait till you can afford, you won't ever have them.
Was there anything about, like, you didn't want to become attached to something else, like you were with Randy, with the potential for it to be taken from you again?
I don't think so, unless it was just subconsciously.
Yeah.
But, it may have had something to do, like when y'all got hurt or sick, maybe how I reacted.
Yeah.
That may have played a part in that.
I know with our kids, I didn't think about it beforehand, but now that's such a burden that you carry of worrying about your kids that you don't think you're going to be carrying before you have them. I mean, I just didn't think about it.
Well, that's all you think about.
Yeah.
I mean, that's your life. Is your kids are your life all the way until Chad moved out and then you moved out. Well, after you moved out, we didn't have, I mean, it's like, what do you do?
Our life was over with.
You don't even know what you're going to do.
Well, and believe me, it doesn't stop when they grow up either.
Oh, I bet.
It's so much better when you're younger. You don't think of that at the time, but now there's nothing we can do. You know, we can't protect you anymore. I can't pick you up and make things better like when that happened with the pericardial cyst. I was devastated. I mean, all that went through my head is a million things. What can I do? What can I do? And I couldn't fix it. And that was one of the hardest things when you can't fix something or help or do anything. That's the worst thing.
Well, I'm glad you guys decided to have some children.
Yeah, me too.
And so y'all had me when Dad was policing.
Mm-hmm.
What changed? How did that affect your relationship? How did that affect your life, your careers?
I think having kids is stressful on any marriage, definitely. Comes in where you're now the center of my whole world, and he's kind of in the doghouse. He's so I don't know, and James is a little selfish, more so than what I am. So I don't know, James. How did that?
You're doing a good job.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was, I mean, I can remember it like it was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
You think of the pain I went through to have you. I would do that every day if I had to, and never even think when you have a child and it's just the child that loves you unconditionally, the child that is everything. I don't know. You can't explain it. I told Blake, and I've told you a million times, you'll never, ever understand the true love of a parent until you have your own. And then you'll realize I'll lay my life down for any of you, for Caitlin, for Brooke. Of course, my grandkids would come first, but I would it wouldn't even hesitate, not even a second. I would lay my life down. And it's just everything. I don't know. You can't explain it.
Well, that takes you right on up through the point that the firstborn was born.
Yeah. The first of everything. First grandchild on both sides.
Son.
Yeah.
Old Chad's proud of that, guys. If y'all don't know,
Well, but
go ahead and just lay in it for a minute, Chad. Say it once more.
I've carried the burden for my whole life.
Let's relish
Yeah,
this,
but he's
though.
always said, though, that you was my favorite. He always says, Blake's your favorite. He always has been.
Well, but the thing is, the firstborn is you make the most mistakes with, and that is true. And I always try to tell people that a lot of times some younger kids that I've taught at school have kids of their own, and sometimes they'll ask me, what could you tell me? And biggest thing I said, understand that you're going to make mistakes, and don't be too big to apologize to your child. And I've done that many times. You probably deserve more apologies than Blake. Of course, Blake was much easier than you were. You were difficult from day one, the minute you were born. So you were an emergency C-section. And they couldn't quiet you. I was still in recovery. I was half awake. And they had to bring you to me because they said, man, we can't calm him down. And
They still can't.
Yeah. Well, the minute they placed you in my arms, you stopped immediately. So that was pretty neat.
Well, we might have to try that next time you get out of control. We'll call Mom up here and say, we strap him to you or something. Try to get that joker under control.
They still can't calm me down, son. They still can't quiet me down.
Well, and Chad's got, I don't know what you would call it, but he's like I am.
I told y'all that in the beginning of the darn podcast, and y'all denied it.
Well, several things, though. There's pros and cons to that because when I'm going to do something, first of all, I find the biggest challenge in my life at that time, whatever the biggest hurdle is, for me. I mean, it can be something simple to someone else, but whatever the hurdle is for me, I master that. I don't just halfway master that. I will do it and do it very well. And I won't stop until I do master it. Mm-hmm. I'm very headstrong. Mm-hmm. But that can come back to bite you sometimes.
Let's take a little break, guys. We'll be right back. I gotta hit the head real quick. Y'all having fun?
Yeah. Not as nervous as I thought.
You see how much Blake talks on these podcasts, right?
My problem.
You see how much room there is to talk, don't you?
My problem is
Mama
I get
keeps hogging it. She's hogging the mic.
Chad always says, "Aaron, you don't ever say much." Like, my gosh, you give me no opportunities.
Mike hogged just like his mama.
Yeah. Last night on Resurrected, he talked for 55 minutes.
Well, it's funny. On the way here, me and Phyllis were talking about it, and we were talking about you, how you always talk. And she said, but you know what? He doesn't talk that much anymore. I said, I know he's become very reserved.
That's the way I do. I don't talk much no more. I just say it.
You talk to a stump. You can sell anything.
You could ask me something. I think Chad is right about the old car. I think that's what I'm liking in my life.
Oh, no. I think you'll just have to lack away.
It's an investment.
No.
You might have to go get some more diesel again. Go down Days. See if they got any hot rods down there.
Oh, what was that kind you brought home? You sitting there and knew all about it.
What you gotta do? Just show up with it.
Does she? Well, that's kind of hard for her.
Yeah.
I should have done it at Chad's. You can have a bathroom.
What's that?
It's easier to pee outside.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
And you got to stop me sometimes I get off the beaten path.
Pretty long-winded.
Well, you got to be long-winded on a podcast.
Well, just shut me down or something.
I mean, the point of a podcast is to talk. If you don't talk, the podcast sucks.
Yeah, what do you want?
You just can't ramble.
No, you can even ramble. Rambling is...
Ramble.
Look, if I do this,
Well, I can't see. I can't turn my head good.
every once in a while I look over here if I'm doing this.
Rambling is actually better than silence on a podcast. You ready, Blake? Yeah. Won't you look at that? He ain't text me. All right, guys, we're back. Mom was just talking about how whenever she has an obstacle or a hurdle in front of her, how she gets front sight focused on it, she attacks it and masters it. Yes, that is where I got that from in my mind. I call it front sight focus, right? And that's what she did with her college education. She did that with her fitness and her triathlons, and that character trait of hers shine through and a lot of times in our, as we watched her during our childhoods, right? So I always relate that part of me back to you. Dad and Blake, they're kind of more just go with the flow,
Yeah.
They're go with the flow. They make good presidents. That's why Blake's the president of the company.
The more Chad relates me to you, you might wind up with less put downs from Mom. If she realizes she's putting you down, she's kind of putting me down.
Oh no, you're the baby.
This might be beneficial for you, Dad.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Let's get back on track. Y'all want to just skip over when Blake was born?
No, that was another bargaining tool when I was ready to have another one, and James was like, "We got one. Isn't that enough?"
And he was probably the one you had was the best one. Why would you want another one?
Well,
When
sometimes
you had me.
I'm glad we did have the other one.
and it's funny how you love kids. You know, they always say the favorite, or you love this one more. You love it. It's amazing when you have two kids. You love different things about them. Chad definitely gave us a run for our money, more so than Blake. Blake, I don't even know if I spanked him 5 times.
Well, I learned how to capitalize on Chad's mistakes. When
I
he made a
think he
mistake,
did.
I could say, well, here's my chance to really gain in the end here with the providers. So,
Well, I think he would see what happened, because here's Chad. If he was upset, he was going to make the entire household upset.
he's still that way.
Everybody was going to suffer, not just him. Everybody in the house was going to suffer.
Yeah.
So I think Blake kind of watched down with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
he's bad about that, son. You should have. He had this whole office turned upside down earlier. I couldn't even. Just had to kick him out. He had the whole room in this bad vibes he was putting
Don't
on.
Yeah.
get me on that. Don't get me on anything to do with taxes or accounting.
Yeah,
Don't even put me on it.
or technology, because Blake is very good with technology. He was
So how many years apart are me and Blake?
3 years and 11 months.
Really? 3 years and 11 months. Darn, I didn't know that, man.
Oh.
Well,
And then Blake, we were actually, so we lived in Cobb County, and we were out at Phyllis's house in Polk County at Jacob's birthday party. And my water broke. And so we had to, it was about an hour drive, which when you're going into labor feels like forever. So my mom was driving, and we couldn't find James because there weren't cell phones. He was out doing a surveying job or something. So that was a little scary.
I bet.
Yeah.
and so you were, when did you get out of the police work, Dad?
I was policing then too.
And surveying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This is why you guys hear me a lot of times say that Blake and I were raised in a big way, especially in our younger life, by a bunch of women, our mom and our aunts. And it's because our dad, our grandfather, they owned a surveying business. They worked 2 jobs. They were essentially, Mom, you worked your way into the daycare thing so
Right.
you could be home and earn money and spend time with us, right? Which was
Exactly.
a wonderful thing. But Dad, you and Pops, y'all got after it, man.
Oh yeah.
Y'all got after it. And y'all did very well in business for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And so we're coming up out off of Powder Springs Road. We have that was an awesome place to grow up, by the way. We grew up, we lived in and no, it might not have been the best for you guys, but for us as kids, it was awesome because we had our house, and then across the yard was our grandparents' house. So we could go back and forth. And our grandfather, we called him Pops. He just passed away not long ago. And Pops was always the one, if you wanted a ATV or something big, some big new toy, right? Y'all would actually send us to Pops, right?
James probably did.
Yeah, y'all would send us to Pops, and we'd go over there, and 9 times out of 10, he would get us if we asked for something. Now I'm not saying that I don't ever feel like I was just spoiled rotten.
Oh no,
But we were taken care of. That,
y'all didn't have an abundance of anything, but you never really lacked a heck of a lot.
And Pops made us work too. I mean, Pops would not only make us work in the business, surveying with you guys from a very young age, but even cutting the grass. I mean, Pops would always give us an opportunity to work for our money.
Yeah.
He always did that.
Well, we both instilled that in you guys. We didn't want you to, we wanted you to be productive citizens when you grow up.
Well, I remember there were so many times that, and this was kind of later on in my teenage years, I would go, at the beginning of the school year, you would get school clothes, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember going shopping with some guys, some of my friends, right? And their parents would just like literally load them down with whatever they wanted, right? And these kids that I hung out with, not a near one of them ever had to work for anything. I can never remember a single one of my friends cutting a yard, doing a job, doing any of that, man. None of them. No. And guess what they are now? They're turds.
A lot of them were.
They weren't turds then. They were never required to work for anything.
They didn't know the value of nothing.
And we were required to work. We weren't required to like work for our dinner, but if we wanted like the backpack I wanted, well, I was required to go out on a 6-mile trail run.
Yeah.
And I worked with, I don't know when I started working with you guys, the Summers survey. And I want to say I was probably 13, 12.
You were probably younger than that.
Yeah, I was very young. And actually going out with responsibility, to where I'm having to perform tasks that matter. Right.
Yeah.
And, that was a wonderful thing, a wonderful opportunity that, Dad and Pops and you, Mom, gave us.
Well, we even made you, when the summertime came and you would work, we would make you pay, what do we call it? We came up with something like rent or something when you were a little older. We'd make you pay us a portion of that. Now, you didn't realize it, but we just kept that money and put it back. And then later in the year when you wanted something, that's where we'd get that money from.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever knew that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, because you would pitch a fit. I work for this money, blah, blah, blah. We'd argue with it. And I was trying to teach you responsibility of paying a bill or something like that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't very much that I took, and I put it up for you for later. Mm-hmm. But
that's a hard thing as a parent to do too, because when your kids want something, you want to give it to them naturally. Yeah. Like, you want to see them enjoy it and the look when they get it, and to postpone that from their working, I mean, that's a hard thing to do as a parent.
Yeah.
Let alone that, on the kids' end, they don't want to do it either, but it's good. It's for the good of both of you.
Mm-hmm.
It's what grandparents are for, though, too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can instill that stuff, but when they come to our house, we can spoil them.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, we do a good job with that.
Yeah, but, I mean, I'll beg to differ. Pops made us work.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
He did. Once we got
Blakely
old enough to know what it was.
Blakely and Joe, they're not old enough yet. We'll put them to work later.
Yeah.
Put Joe out there on the weed eater.
My grandfather did that with me and Phyllis. He would, when we would stay there, and of course we'd mess his shoes up and stuff, but he would have us, okay, I'm going to give you a silver dollar. Now that was a big deal, but you had to shine his shoes, or you had to go to the post office, or you had to do something to earn whatever you were going to get. Mm-hmm. No matter how simple the job was, you had to do something for it.
We always had that. We always had that from the time we were able to understand really what money was.
Yeah, because you had chores.
Yeah.
If you wanted something, you'd have to do A, B, and C, and then you'll get that.
Yeah. So coming up, I'd say in our, as Blake and I are coming up and we're now a family, I'd say we, in our younger years, we probably spent the most time with you, Mom.
Yeah.
In those years.
Well,
and
that's normally how it's supposed to be.
And you started a business, a child care business out of our house there.
Yep.
So we got to be home with you, and good Lord, we did. I stuck a broadhead arrow through my lip one time, busted heads, we were pretty rough and tumbly, and we got through those years though, man. Got through them good. And then where I really remember where we started really spending more time with Dad was when we were old enough to start coming out and joining on the crew with Dad. And it would always be me, Dad, and another helper, and then Blake eventually. Did you survey much with us, Blake?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And then as we got a little older, I got into hunting. Now, you didn't care nothing about hunting.
Not
Dad?
till y'all started wanting to
No.
go, but then we went every
Yeah, I remember
every
a lot of
weekend.
hunts up at the 40 acres.
But I remember when I first decided I wanted to start hunting, because from the first time I ever went hunting, I loved it. It's something about it just clicked with me, right? And Dad and Pops, they won't about no hunting, son.
Didn't
Yeah, because
have
the
time.
first time you went was with Joey.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's well with Jeff. You know, we would go out for. I think we hunted for 2 years with Joey. Jeff would take me. Joey would take Jake. We hunted for 2 years before I shot a deer finally.
And that was by happenstance, wasn't it? Y'all was walking out.
We were crossing a field, and as I'm writing my book, I actually wrote this story out. We were crossing a field in that old blue truck that Joey had, but I was riding with Jeff. The floorboards were so rusted out of this truck, you could see the ground under your feet as you were crossing through the field. You couldn't step down too hard on the floorboard or you'd go plumb through the bottom of the truck. And yeah, the deer just happened to be running across the cow pasture, and I jumped out and shot one. That was something that Blake and I think I became passionate about to start with. Blake figured out, I don't know at what point you enjoyed it, and then Dad went out and leased a piece of property for us, me, him, and you, Blake, so that we could start hunting together. And then we had a lot of good memories doing that together for a lot of years, man. We'd haul the ATVs out there. We'd set up a big tent. Y'all remember when we took old Daniel out there camping with us that time?
Yes.
Crapped on the side of the tent.
He was
Son.
scared of everything. Of course, though,
We packed and loaded the Bobcat up and everything like 3 a.m. Left because he wouldn't quit complaining
I
about it.
still can't believe Dad did that.
Me either.
We had this guy out there with us, man, a friend of mine, Daniel Worsham. Daniel, if you ever listen to this podcast, God bless you, brother. Daniel got so scared that night. We had set up a massive camp there on the hunting property. We were riding four-wheelers and working and, this and that. And the coyotes started up that night.
Yeah, they was pretty close.
They were pretty close, but Daniel got so nervous that his stomach got tore up, and he couldn't quit crapping.
And he went to the bathroom right outside the front door.
That's the problem. He was so scared he got the craps, but he was also so scared he couldn't leave the tent. So when you've got the mud butt, but you can't leave the tent, it's a bad scenario.
That's a bad recipe right there.
It really is. So, man, we had all kind of good times out there.
I remember when maybe Greg Willingham was with us. We didn't have a tractor or nothing to cut that grass with, and everyone hauled their tractor mowers out. We had an army of tractor mowers out there cutting
the
that field of probably 3 foot high grass, getting it cut down.
We did all kinds of stuff, man. I'll never forget the morning all these stories revolve around having the craps, but we got up one morning to go turkey hunting, and me and Dad and Blake loaded up in the truck, and we rolled out the house and went to Martin's to get a biscuit.
hey, this is 5 a.m.
Yeah, 5
I'm still
a.m.
sleeping.
We're all fired up about going turkey hunting, and Dad pulls up through the drive-through of Martin's and craps his pants. And we had
After he eat the biscuit.
we had to turn around and go home. We didn't even go hunting, did we?
Yeah,
I
we
think
went hunting.
yeah.
You cleaned yourself up, and we went on hunting.
Well, I remember coming in home, and I said, "What are you doing?" I done crap myself.
Son, we could have a whole podcast on Dad's old mud butt story, son.
Moving right along.
Listen. We went to what was we doing? Riding motorcycles or something? We
Moving
were
right
stopped
along.
at this visitor center over here in Cartersville. And this a brick building. Dad runs in there. We're sitting outside and we start saying, "My gosh, son, what is that smell?" And Dad comes running out of the visiting center. He said, "Come on, we got to go before they make me clean that up." And Mama's over there looking at Dad's getting so mad. He said, "Look at her over there just looking at them flowers and stuff. They're going to make me clean that up. We need to go."
Hey, man, that's like some stuff off the Nutty Professor right there.
You can't make that up.
You can't even make it up, so.
No, we could go on and on about them.
Yeah. Those were really good years, man. Those were really good years. Yeah, I mean, those were great. I ended up barely graduating high school. I don't know how was it dealing with us through those years?
Well, here's the thing. When you were in high school, it was pretty easy because you kept them at bay from calling the house. I don't know how you swung that at high school, but you came up with lots of things. You were really good at elementary school. Well, you weren't. You were about a C student. You got to middle school, first year, failing everything the first quarter. And you had this one teacher that taught you how to read better or whatever. She just fired you up and everything went. School came easy, but you didn't want anything to do with honors programs or anything like that. You were a thing of your own. Now, Blake, on the other hand, he loved school, loved it. I mean, he loved to learn. He loved to be with the kids. You like being with kids, but you always had to have your downtime.
Mm-hmm.
This one, Blake never wanted any downtime. He wanted to be with family and kids and every day, 24/7.
Yeah, he's just like Dad.
Well, when I did daycare Saturday, "Mama, where's the kids? Where's the kids? They're not here." So we'd have, Kyle spend the night or something. It was always something like that. But yeah, it was hard getting you through school. And now when Blake got older, when he was in high school, he started skipping school here and there. But I didn't ever have any problem with him because he graduated with honors. He was straight A's, so he could miss 4 or 5 days and take a test and just make 100.
That's why he's the president.
A smart man can miss a day or two.
Yeah. That's
He
why
was
he's the president.
got along with everybody. And I think that's the biggest thing that I always instilled in my boys is that be who you are. Don't be a follower.
Yeah.
Be unique. Who cares? And they were both like that. They didn't have to have the greatest things or whatever. I remember one time I took Chad shopping for some shoes and he wanted these navy tennis shoes. And I said, "Well, Chad, that's kind of in the girls section." "I don't care. I want them." And that's what he got. So, I mean, he didn't care.
Yeah.
And Blake didn't either. He was always his own person, and you either like him or you don't.
Yeah.
And I think they definitely get that from me. Because even in the education world, I'm not your regular math teacher, really.
Well, Mom, I want you to walk me through real quick both, doesn't have to be real quick, but I want you to walk me through your fitness journey in life. That was in your 30s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, competitive, very competitive athlete. And then also your journey in your professional life as far as earning your degrees, how many degrees do you have?
I just have a master's.
Okay.
Undergrad and a master's.
Okay. So walk me through the fitness journey. Why did that happen?
Well, after I had Blake, I gained a lot of weight and this, that, and the other, and our marriage was going through some rough times. So that combination, I think, like I told you, once I make my mind up, we're done. Whatever I make my mind up on, that's what's going to happen. So I just started where we lived down the street. I'd run from one lamppost to the next, then 2 lampposts. So it started like that. And one thing added to another, started running, mastered 6 miles, then 12, then 13. And I said, well, I tried a triathlon one time, just a mini one, and I was hooked.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I never mastered the swimming, but I won quite a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
I got to do an Olympic distance, which was you would swim a mile, bike 30, and run 6, 10K. So I got to doing that, and I did a couple marathons in the wintertime. Marathons weren't much of my thing. I liked the triathlons better because it changed it up.
Yeah.
And I liked a lot of the mountain stuff.
Yeah.
And we always did that. I mean, every Saturday we'd run, I'd run 18 miles, and then I'd get up really early where you kids would still be sleeping.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah, I'd get up real early, and I'd have it done, and we'd be ready to go. I'd take you guys hiking or playing in the woods or wherever we were going.
Mm-hmm.
Never missed a beat.
Yeah.
And that was, I did that in it. I loved it. It's just it's a high that unless you run or do activities, you don't know what it feels like. It's weird.
Now, did that kind of taper off when you decided you wanted to start college?
Yeah, so then when Daddy started having all this trouble with his back, and the doctors pretty much told us
After he wrecked the bicycle, the story that he wouldn't tell us about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing after another, things got worse. And they said that, eventually he's not going to be able to work. They couldn't give us any time frame. So I knew I had to step it up because I was happy doing what I was doing, but I was going to have to make more money.
Mm-hmm.
So I started school, and I didn't have time anymore because I had to go to school full time, work full time, and take care of the family.
Mm-hmm.
So that was rough. But I got my undergrad, graduated cum laude, and then about 2 years later got my master's, and just loved teaching, and I was good at what I do.
Yeah, you crushed college, man.
Yeah, and I crushed teaching too. I took a lot of pride and I think where I did mess up, the mistake that I made is I put too much time into my work,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of missed some time with you guys. Sometimes I feel guilty about that.
I don't
should have.
remember that.
Well, you were busy doing your own thing. But so I did that, and I never dreamed I could ever master. Math was always extremely hard for me. I didn't make good choices in high school, and it was very, very difficult, but that was my obstacle. And then I never dreamed I could ever teach high school math, ever. I always thought that was unattainable. Mm-hmm. And I switched it and decided to do that and got certified for that, and that's where I'm at. So got a lot of awards at school and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that was a huge span for you of really a lot of achievement, a lot of breaking new ground on not only your fitness journey and racing and this and that, but then transitioning into school at that age with kids and a family and all that. I mean, you broke you broke the mold on that one, really, for somebody.
Yeah.
Especially in those days and in the place where we lived.
Right.
It was kind of a,
It's an affluent community. We weren't in the affluent part.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
But you do, when you're like that, I knew, I'm that type of person. I see what needs to get done and I get it done. Mm-hmm. I needed to step up, and I knew I had to. That wasn't a choice. I mean, I guess it was a choice, but it was the welfare of my children, and my boys were my life. They always will be. And that's what I had to do. And I sucked it up, put my big girl pants on, and accomplished it.
Dad, how were you feeling when you did get that news about your chronic, you have a chronic debilitating back? What is it genetic? It's a diagnosis, but some of it's acquired, some of it's congenital. Yeah. But when you got that diagnosis and you realize, well, this is going to basically get worse throughout my life, you realize that there was going to be a point where you potentially would not be able to potentially even walk. I mean, I know that's they've told you that before. And mom had to step up and get that education to fill that role. I mean, were you how were you supportive? Was it hard for you to have to kind of see her have to go through that and step up like that? Because I think you were you took a lot of pride into being the overarching provider. You know what I mean?
I think I did. I think I did pretty good, don't you? With you going to school. I mean,
Well, yeah, you weren't going to complain about it. You never complained about making more money.
What were you doing when you got that diagnosis for a living? Surveying?
yeah, I was surveying then.
And
what-
he'd be out of work for weeks at a time.
I don't ever remember that.
That's
Oh,
funny.
I would go to work sometimes and couldn't even hardly walk, but I would still go in and work because we had to work.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
But
'cause
you
we-
just-
We went a long span without insurance too.
But
Yeah, we did.
The old
Yeah.
daredevil over there cost us a fortune.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that was pretty much, it was just, you just saw it, hey, this is what it is, and thankful that mom stepped up to the plate at least to establish that foundation in case y'all ever had to fall back on it.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
it was great that she did what she did.
Yeah.
I continued to work, and she got her degree, and all that did was make our future a little better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I know there's a couple times we talked about it, how if I hadn't have done that, we would have been out on the street.
oh yeah,
On a couple circumstances
Yeah.
when,
and a couple of different.
like when
Work was slow, economy shut down.
yeah, that pulled us through.
Yeah. And and especially in the profession that you chose, you've had great job security.
Oh yeah,
And because you do a great job at your job, obviously.
yeah.
You have great job security, which is, carried us
Well, and
as a family
I
through.
take a lot of pride because I really know in my heart that this is what God anointed me to do. He blessed me to be an encourager, someone to inspire other people, to lift other people up. That's my gift. That's my gift, and I believe Blake has the same gift.
No,
but-
I have that gift.
Oh,
Blake doesn't.
You don't have all the gifts, son.
Blake is much more patient, but it is a gift to, especially education, what it does, and because I struggled so much in math, that made me a better math teacher. I can relate and have compassion on those kids that don't get it, and I'll have kids that I run into. Some of them I don't remember their names, or they look so much different, and they'll scream across the parking lot at me, and that means everything to me, because it makes, okay, what I went through, what I did, everything was worth it.
Well, I want to bounce forward to, I guess I think that I had left. Well, I just want to. I think it was tough for all of us when I left the first time to go into the Navy. Obviously, I was gone, and I didn't know anything about what you guys were going through as a family back home that first time I left. But is that when Dad had that surgery that went wrong? And
No, actually, you was back home.
was I home then?
Yeah, that
So-
was after that.
Yeah,
That's after he graduated, wasn't it?
No, I think that's when he come home and he had his surgery.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So I had come home.
I meant boot camp.
I had come home to have, I had got disqualified, obviously, come home to have heart surgery. And Dad, what happened there, man?
More comedy.
This was a trying time because Dad actually died on the operating table.
It was a piece of steak. I just cooked some steaks
Okay,
for all of
what
us.
about the steak?
Mom likes to note that they were very thick.
Yes. I told him that
It was
too
a
thick.
It was
Juicy.
fajita meat.
It was a juicy steak.
Yeah, okay.
It was fajita meat.
Uh-huh.
But the very first bite that I took, I'd always had problems with, well, not always, but for a couple of years I'd had problems. I would eat something and it would hang in my esophagus and eventually it'd go down. Well, this time I took the very first bite of the steak and it wouldn't go down. So I stood around and tried to drink water, it would come back up. And you went with me to the hospital. Blake went with me to the hospital. Didn't think there was any big deal. Figured they would give me something, make it go down, or, just figured it would be a real simple.
Outpatient type deal.
Figured I'd be there an hour and be back. And then I remember Blake was in the hospital, and I don't remember what you wanted to go do. I can't remember what it was, but I
think it was just getting late.
May have been. I told you
to
just to go home. I said I'll be all right just going home. And really, I don't remember anything from that point as far as doctor related, what they did or whatever. I don't even remember being transferred to another hospital.
Well, they were the ones who tore your esophagus, weren't they?
No, they transferred me to Kennestone because they tried to get the meat out of my throat and they couldn't get it out. So they sent me to Kennestone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
that's when it was torn.
Yeah, and then when he removed that from my esophagus, he ripped my esophagus and then didn't realize he had ripped it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I laid there with all of my stomach contents emptying out in my system.
The bile.
Yeah, it was just, got my lungs and collapsed my lungs. And so they rushed me to.
But let's back that up a little bit. So that's going on, and I keep telling the nurse. So they overdose him on painkiller. Keep giving him painkiller, and that doctor never come checked on him. So finally he realizes something's wrong, and they can't give him the medicine to counteract the overdose that they overdosed him on. Can't give him that because they got to do surgery. So he had a 40% chance of living at that point.
Actually, 20 is what, if you look that up, that surgery's 20%.
Well, they gave you 40.
He was so strong. You were
That's
so
just
strong.
because of the strength that I've got. So
they pretty much told me, go in there. He's kind of out of it, but say what you need to.
Didn't he tell you to call the family up there or whatever?
Well, no, he told me to go in there. So, go ahead.
Well, you know more about all of that
Well,
because I was out of it, so I don't.
Yeah, well, that's all there was to that, and then they went into surgery, so you can tell about how you died.
Well, I mean, I don't really know nothing about it other than.
Did we lose you?
Well, that's what all y'all told me. So
Yes.
I don't remember being there. I don't know where the world I was at.
I remember Mom told me twice that I died, but now I don't know if I heard wrong, but I do know that according to them that I did die. So, and then, I guess it was such a rare thing. Even later on, I'd been to doctors and they'd say, "Hey, I heard about that story. You was the guy." Or if I go to a doctor now and they find that on my medical chart, they say, "Man, you just don't realize how lucky you are because people don't live through that type of surgery."
And how we could have sued him and made lots of money.
Well, that's definitely not the answer.
No.
We don't sue people.
It would have helped.
Yeah. Well, we don't sue people.
Well, and the way I looked at that, speaking of suing, and I'd actually even said that to your mother. I said, this man saved my life. Mm-hmm. I mean, his surgery, I ain't going to say he did. God saved my life, but he
was willing to do it.
He made the mistake, but he went in there and did what he was supposed to do. A physician, I guess, could have did something like that. We'd never know the difference if I had died. You know what I'm saying? So no, I'm 100%. I mean, But
Well, the reason I asked you about this story is because I think this was a little, maybe not a little, but this was a big reset for you in life, wasn't it? Didn't it rock you back on your heels a little bit?
it was, because when I did die, I had I don't really know how to describe it, but because you can't describe it, the peace that I felt. I don't know how to say what I felt, because I've never experienced it on earth. And basically it was like, didn't see the light, wasn't no audible stuff, but if you ever study anybody that died and had an experience, it's almost, everyone will say, it's like the being you're talking to, which I'm saying God, is like he reads your thoughts. You ain't got to say nothing. He knows what you're communicating just by your thoughts. That's the only way I know how to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
And the way, there were several things that went through my mind, but the big thing is he told me, said, well, you want to stay here, or do you want to go back and take care of your family like you should and do the things that you need to do?
Mm-hmm.
So I come back, and what was it, a 9-month recovery?
Yeah, it's a long
I
time.
think it was 9 months. But, I'm getting way ahead of myself. Well, I come back, got healed, and then fell away from the Lord again after something that great
Mm-hmm.
that I experienced. I mean, how foolish could someone be to fall back on their, and me and you had these conversations, and we won't get into that, but how foolish is it to experience a personal encounter with the Lord and then fall back on your faith? I mean, thankfully, things are great between me and my Savior now, but I fell away from the Lord after some period of time had went by after I had healed,
Mm-hmm.
which, 9 months to heal, probably went another year. So 2 years after this encounter, I fell away from the Lord again.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say, I think the Lord will let you get so far out, and he will reel you back in no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think at that point in life, that's probably what it took. And then the other traumatic event in our life is like, all right, buddy, I've done told you one time,
Yeah.
you better get it right.
Yeah.
And so I got it right.
Yeah.
So that's where all that goes.
Yeah. You've went through a very significant process in your faith, in your walk with Jesus. And, it's, I mean, we've, of course, back then, I had no relationship with Jesus. It just, we are all, as a family, in the best place that we've ever been in.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to each of us with our own personal relationships with Jesus. But boy, it's been a heck of a darn process for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
It really has
been a rocky road. I mean,
yeah.
I think it's a good example about that even if you, whatever you want to call it, stray or whatever people call it, get off track, that don't ever think that it's too late.
Yeah.
Or that it's too far gone, because
well,
I think this whole family's a living testimony of, no, it's not.
Well, to think if you've been saved that you
Will be perfect.
When you're straying, that you're straying. I really think, and you've taught some stuff on it with the reprobate mind and stuff. But I think once you've been saved, you know when you're doing wrong. And there's little things. God stays. There'll be things that come up. You don't get away from him. You can't outrun him.
Yeah.
Well, you'll always feel that conviction.
Exactly.
That you're doing something.
Now, your conviction may get a little bit weaker or not as stingful. It's just like going to church. If you quit going to church, that very first few weeks, you'll think, man, I should have went to church today. I should have just got up and went on no matter what. Well, after you do that for 6 or 8 weeks, not going to church is that big a deal because you've got a custom not, but you still know, hey, I probably should be there.
You hope you still know. If you ever don't still know, there's no coming back.
But the conviction strength, I think once you start veering off, you can go a long ways. And I think that he will get you, whether it be death, whether it be near death, whether it be marriage come to an end, a loss of a family member. I think he will get your attention no matter what. So,
because that's most important to him above any comfort that we have.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, looking back on the process that you've endured in your personal journey, your personal process with Jesus, what would you say? What advice would you give to your brothers and sisters that may be seeing little things in their lives where maybe they're veering off of that path that was meant for them?
I think you need to get in the Word, get around Christian people, whatever you need to do to get him back in your life before you end up with some kind of tragic event, because it will happen.
It will happen.
And I think that before you get too far, I think if you're in that situation, you need to get in the Word, go to a church, find a buddy that knows the Lord, whatever, listen to 3 of 7. But I mean, seriously, I really feel ashamed and guilty for some of the things and some of the lifestyle and things I've done when I did fall away from the Lord.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. I know it's been forgiven and I know things are good, but that stuff is still in your mind. It may not be in your heart. So before you let yourself get that way, get in the Word, get things back, get back on track.
Yeah. 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 I agree, man. And I get that, man, because I for me personally, all of us, as we walk through this life and we make mistakes, we screw stuff up, we do the wrong thing right there. I think there is some guilt or whatever that lingers, right? But I would just like to tell anybody and everybody who's listening to this, if you are dealing with that guilt and shame about anything that you have done, the blood of Christ is sufficient to cover that.
Oh, yeah, it's covered.
The blood of Christ is sufficient to cover that. And actually, once you come to the place, if you can, and even I work through some stuff even in my own, I have stories that I don't tell, right? Because I haven't worked through them yet in my own head, right? But once you come to the place where you realize that's covered, man, I'm actually so pure because of the blood of Christ that I'm whiter than a fresh snow. I'm whiter than snow. I'm covered completely. And then hopefully you can take some of those things that you did wrong and use those things and those stories and those experiences in the right setting to help men or women or brothers and sisters that are going through what you had to go through in order to prevent them from maybe having to experience the depth of what you had to experience.
Amen.
It's just hard to, it's a process even for me. I'm still processing my time in the SEAL teams. It's a process even for me to share some of that stuff, you know? But, boy, that's where the value's at, son.
Well, it goes back to such a simple topic and idea that we nuke it. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, the whole, it's like it's not a works-based salvation. It doesn't matter how good or bad you do. His blood covers you, and it doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
And it's hard for us to comprehend that because we tend to love people based on the things they do to us.
Yeah.
And not just love them purely, unconditionally. It's easy to love your close, your family, your kids that way, but someone else who just blatantly wrongs you, that's how we love them. Mm-hmm. That's the temptation, not how we should, but that's the temptation too. So I think, it's hard to view. It's a divine love. It's a supernatural love, a supernatural principle. So it's hard for us to comprehend. But this goes back to trusting what the Bible says and trusting the principles in the Bible. We will never comprehend it. You just have to know that it's written in there and it's truth, and you have to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
You do. I mean, all of that is of the flesh. I mean, I know when I'm ashamed of this and that, I mean, that's just the human side. Has no effect on my walk with God. It's just the little thing in your head that's saying, hey,
Yeah.
you shouldn't have done that stuff. Why and that plays into Satan. I mean, that's his.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people that could benefit from every aspect of your testimony. From your high to your lowest fall, right? There's somebody out there that's going to benefit from, especially those times when you fall really low. And that's the message that the enemy doesn't want getting out, right?
That's right.
That's the reason he keeps attaching that shame to it.
That's right.
That's that part of that you say that you keep hearing, and man, when you look at it that way, you think, dang, I should say, screw you, Satan.
Exactly.
I'm going to go out and use this fall to help somebody else so that they don't have to go where I went.
Well, that's the perfect example of letting your feelings serve you. When you have that feeling of shame, then that should be a cue that you need to lean on your principles and let them lead you. So you feel that shame when you say, oh, there it is. That's something that I need to go share. I'm probably not going to want to, but that feeling shows me it's shame, and I know when I feel that way, that's something that can help someone else.
Yeah. Well, it's just like one of y'all's guests, and I ain't going to say his name. He called me and was dealing with some issues, and he said this freed him. Coming on the podcast, it freed him.
Yeah.
So now he's going out and talking about his issues.
Yeah.
So he's not listening to that voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's not letting that voice control him not to go out and give his testimony. And by talking about it on here is what freed him to start doing that. So
it's basically the best way to kick Satan in the face.
Yeah.
Is bring up
his future.
Bring up the things that you did wrong that he doesn't want you to bring up. As you delve into this and you break this topic down, it's very interesting. I think it's a very valuable concept for people to consider when they're sharing their testimony. I think it's a very valuable aspect of it to consider, because I've never really sat and broke it down this way. You know what I mean?
That's what you did on Resurrected on Sunday. And look, I mean, I think that helped a lot of people. Look at the comments went crazy. Everybody loved it. And all you did was talk about how your week went, where you failed, and what you did about it.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Well, one of the things I want to share is I went through something very traumatic that I deal with every day still. But that James Cordell, he's the one that he made a simple statement that brought me lowest I've ever felt in my entire life. And he said, well, you know what? When Christ sees you, he sees righteousness. And I just looked at him like, that's impossible. That's not possible. I don't know what you're talking about. And he just looked at me and repeated it. And ever since then, when I deal with that, that's what I say to myself. No, because that's not what he sees. Here's what he sees.
Well, once you're forgiven,
Yeah,
it's almost like he don't even know what you're talking about.
Right.
If you bring it up to the Lord, it's like,
I already forgave you for that.
That's
Right.
gone.
Why are you still bringing this up?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a part of me and how I grew up, you know.
What's the flesh? It's everybody.
Well, it's never
has
good
that.
enough. I don't care what you do. It's never enough. It's never good enough, blah, blah, blah. But for anyone out there that suffers from that, always remember when God sees you, he sees righteousness. That's all he sees.
Mm-hmm. Now, Mom, what is your testimony? Because I know when we were very young, you were very close to God.
Yeah.
You were very close to Jesus. Very, extremely close to Jesus. From what in those young years, I don't know how old we were, but, and so what led you to that place?
Well,
where you got really close to the Lord, and then what is your testimony? What do you want to share about your testimony?
Well, I'll have to say, James, when I started dating him, they went to a Pentecostal church, and you think, I've never really been to any church at all, so I knew nothing.
Church building.
Yeah, church building. Well, but I didn't know of any kind of Christ of anything, so when I was saved at 17, it was just like, I can't even explain it, like most unbelievable feeling in the whole wide world. And just a big fire. And when you guys were little, I could go to church. We went on Sundays. We went on Sunday night. We went on Wednesday.
And Dad, you weren't going at this time.
Not at that time, no.
But I think the biggest thing is that I led by example. It's not a necessary of going to church. It's the point that you boys did volunteer work at a soup kitchen once a month. You were young. You probably don't remember it. You did. You saw me time and time again pay it forward for people way back then, before it was even a thing. You saw me help strangers. You saw me be kind. I wasn't perfect, but like you said, there was no drinking in the house. That's a thing that Phyllis and I made a pact with each other. Our children would never see that.
Yeah.
There was no cussing. There was
never.
No, well, a couple times maybe when you got a little older.
Not until I did that burnout in your truck out in the road.
Let's not talk about that. Oh my gosh.
And by the way, I do want to say real quick, I don't mean to. I don't want the listeners to get confused about this part of our conversation. We're not putting an emphasis on going to church at all. Like y'all know where I stand on that. That we are the church as a combined body of Christ.
Well,
right?
that's what I was saying. The main thing is leading by example is what we did.
Yeah.
You saw it in action. I didn't tell you do this and this and this. You saw it over and over and over again. So I think that's the biggest takeaway, is that as parents of young kids, don't tell them this, that, and the other. Mm-hmm. Show them by actions. Show them what unconditional love is. When they have a dream, support them, encourage them, lift them up. Don't beat them down. Mm-hmm. Don't ever tell your kid you can't do this, you can't do that. Don't ever say that. I'm not talking about inabilities. Just don't tell them if they want to. If they want to be president, don't tell them, well, you can't do that.
Now, as you kind of progressed through your life and got into your whatever late 30s or whatever, and you got busy with college, with all this stuff, did that relationship with Christ kind of wane because life got busy, or
Yes, I think it did. It did get busy. It was hard to do all that at one time because I was still, did all the cooking, all the cleaning, everything.
so it was hard to maintain that relationship.
Yeah. And I don't use that excuse. That was just laziness on my part.
Yeah.
The relationship was still there. It just wasn't as strong as what it was. Because I devoted every waking minute to praying and all those things. And, it's whatever you feed the most that's going to prosper the most.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think people need to know that, okay, there are some people that grow up in a Christian home or whatever, and I don't know of any people, but maybe they never stray. But in the real world, majority of people, please understand, don't ever forget that you may walk away, like James was even saying, but don't get to the brink of death in your soul before you come back. Always keep that. And you're right, it doesn't mean that you go to church or this, that, the other. It means your actions. I know I keep saying that, but that's so strong. Even the kids at school see me. They see my actions. They see that I don't care if your mama or daddy is on the board or whatever. If you skip my class, I'm writing you up just as much as I am a kid that is not, is considered something else, a lower than life. Doesn't matter to me. I love them all.
Well, we call that living by a standard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think
actions.
Yeah, I think I think a lot. Your actions can say a lot about where you are in your relationship with Christ. Mm-hmm. I really like what you said. It's what you feed the most, and that's what we even at 307 Project we talk about being very intentional about that time that you spend in order to master, nourish, and maintain your spirit, which is what you talked about you were doing when you were the closest in your companionship with Jesus. You were spending a lot of time in the Word. You were spending a lot of time in prayer. You were spending a lot of time working on your body. You were spending a lot of time working on your emotional, mental strength, right? And that's when you were tight. And then life got busy. You stopped intentionally putting effort into that relationship with Jesus, which it's the same thing in human relationships. It's the exact same thing happens. And then what brought you back into that close relationship with Jesus?
Well, and backing up, it wasn't just the busyness. It was, the some complicated times, and I guess, and there again, I guess that's probably an excuse too, but I guess it just trials got too hard, maybe.
Yeah.
But then just, like I said, my going to the lowest I've ever been.
Yeah.
It's sad, but that's what brought me back.
That's what brought you back. So you feel a lot like Dad feels in the way he portrayed it, that no matter what, once you are brought into the sonship or the daughtership of Jesus Christ, that he's gonna do something to get your attention.
And I cling to the fact that even though I know Heavenly Father and worldly fathers are different, but how much there's nothing either one of you could ever do where I would stop loving you. And how God's love for us is unimaginable. So that's something else I cling to, that how much I love you too, that there's nothing you could do. I can't, there's nothing, nothing that would ever make me stop loving you.
Yeah. Yeah, man, you guys have been through so much. And of course, Blake and I, we don't know the fullness of what you've been through because we were children half the journey that you guys have taken in life. But we're glad that we're thankful, we're joyed, we're glad that you guys are where you are now, and you are the people that you have become, because now you guys, we have, like I say, we're in the best place as a family that we've ever been in, I think. in my opinion. I missed a lot of that though, man. I missed a lot of time with you guys.
Yeah.
I missed a whole lot of time with you guys.
Yeah, and that's hard when you kids move away. I know it took us, a year to adjust to Chad. And then Blake here, he moves out and moves, 10 minutes up the road. I crying like a baby. He comes in the house, Mama, are you crying? Leave me alone. I'm just a squalling.
Yeah.
It's just a,
But family's important.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing we've always knew is how important family is.
Yep.
It is really outside of the Lord is, in my opinion, the most important thing that you've got.
Mm-hmm.
Because when all else fails in life, when everything else lets you down, that's all you've got. If you're fortunate enough to have that family and have that relationship. So if you do, cherish it. If you don't have that, then, man, strive to try to repair your family relationship to where you can have that relationship, because it's very important.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be, obviously your blood family. It's
the
easiest one, but there's plenty of people outside of that that can be your family.
You've got to have it. You've got to have the communication and somebody you love, and it's the way God designed us.
Mm-hmm. That is something I'm really passionate about. I remember wanting to go into the military for a brief period of time, and I just ended up saying no, that I just wanted to stay with my family, and I was eager to start my own family even.
That was from my prayers, by the way. But you were always like that. You were always family oriented. I think
I've wanted kids since I was a kid, probably.
Yeah. You loved babies when you were Josie's age.
Mm-hmm.
You loved them. You wanted to feed the babies, play with the babies, everything. Yep.
What the world happened to me?
You're just different, Chad. That's okay.
Joker still don't want no kids.
You're a little more selfish like your dad. Ooh.
Oh, man. Well, what are you guys looking forward to most about the years that we all have left together? Whether it's your mission, what are you looking forward to? What are you striving to be, to become, to do, to achieve, whatever?
Spending time. And y'all hear me say it all the time. We have Sunday dinners at my house, and I always tell the boys and the wives, because I know how precious time is. I've been your age before, believe it or not, and life is so busy, but they take the time to come and spend time with me, and I always want y'all to know how much I appreciate that.
We take the time most of the time.
Well, when you can. You take the time when you can, and I understand
we do. We try to get together every Sunday as a family.
And that is so important to me.
Yeah.
So important. And, that's the greatest thing that James and I both agree with, is being a grandparent. You can finally make up for all the crap you screwed up with your kids. That was always my strive. And I told my kids when they were little, I'm going to be the best granny in the whole wide world. And that's what I strive to do, to be the best that he wants me to do, and to be doing what Christ wants me to do.
Well, and two, what about your business, Mom, and the things that you're creating? And I think you've had a very entrepreneurial spirit, really, since you started working. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that and how that works into your passion.
Well, I like making baby quilts and all kind of baby bibs and things like that, and sell them. And then, it's just a creative thing. It's enjoyable. It's relaxing to me. Mm-hmm. So when I work and deal with high school kids all day long and come home, and I've always got to be doing something productive. I can't sit and do nothing. Mm-hmm. I'm not very good at that. I can't even watch a whole movie. So I like to be productive. So that's kind of what I found my hobby and it's turned into a business, and it's doing pretty well. And I give back to the community by donating. I'll create quilts for NICU babies or veterans or cancer patients. Here a while back, I chose 4 law enforcement families that were new parents and created a quilt for them, for each of them. So it's something that I can enjoy doing and giving back.
And a lot of your products are actually very unique.
Oh, yeah, they're all unique.
Yeah, and these are all handmade. From scratch. And you actually have designed certain products to work like you could, some of the stuff you've made, you could probably get a patent on it.
Yeah, I could.
You're being very creative with this new passion of yours, and it's really cool to see you falling into that and making it something that you enjoy doing, and you see a profit off of it, and you use it as a tool to give back to other people, and I don't know, it's really cool. And if you guys want to if you guys want to order something from Mom, I'm sure. How far out are you booked on your stuff?
It'd take about 2 weeks.
So she's about 2 weeks out.
Yep.
If you want to order something, I'll attach a link to Mom's
Etsy shop,
and then also her social media in the show notes of this episode. She does make some really amazing stuff.
Yeah, and I can hand create anything, and they're all unique.
Yeah,
they're all handmade. So, and that's the thing on some of the things that I create. I've thought back and forth. I want my company to grow, but I don't want it to get too big where it's not hand created anymore.
Yeah,
because then it'll take the value out of it.
Yep.
So,
what about you, Dad?
I'm just chilling, brother.
Just chilling?
I'm just chilling.
You got to have something stirring in the head, son.
I just take it day by day.
Well, he just said during our break that now he's wanting to buy a new hot rod car like he had back when he was an outlaw.
Yeah, if we can go ahead and prophesy me getting a hot rod.
He's not making that kind of money anymore.
I just want a closer walk with the Lord, and that's what I strive for daily. And some things that probably I need to get busy on doing work for the Lord, and that's really my focus. So that's what I strive for.
Mm-hmm. What are those things that you need to get busy on?
Easy.
You don't know, or you don't want to tell us?
We'll talk later.
Oh, okay.
Well, I feel like obviously we get to have conversations not on the podcast all the time, and I feel like you maybe Jesus is leaning on you to be involved in some way, shape, or form in some sort of ministry, in some sort of thing or way where you can take who you are and the things that you've come through in order to help other people.
Yes.
Right? Bring other people into the body of Christ, and you've got a lot to share, man. You really do. And it's you got time. I mean, it's I feel like he's just started leaning on you about that stuff, though. Here recently. So, I'm watching you. I'm interested to see where you go with it, or what you end up doing with it. And then I know both of you guys also being grandparents is a huge part of your life.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's
everything.
It's what we look forward to.
That's what we live for.
Every week is getting the grandkids. That's.
You think we could have got them up here for the podcast if the kids didn't live here?
You notice we came early.
But it's the greatest thing when you show up and these little people just light up. I don't know.
Yeah.
You just can't. I mean,
I think
what it's like.
I think it. Oh yeah, it doesn't matter how your day is going. They will brighten your day. I do want to ask you a serious question, and I want I want an honest opinion on this. I know, Mom, you said that is what we live for, and I understand that. Like that is the most important thing in your world. But is it healthy for that to be what you live for? For other grandparents out there, do you think that's okay? I mean,
well, I don't mean it in the literal sense. That's the only thing I live for.
Yeah.
It means it out of this world, out of the things in this world, that brings us the most joy.
That's the number one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Out of the things of this world.
Yeah.
You live for Christ.
Mm-hmm.
You live to achieve what he has you, you live to achieve what he's created you to do.
Yeah.
That's what you live for.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm talking about in the world of itself.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they bring so much joy, but just the stuff that you taught Blakely, like her prayer, and I mean, they bring so much joy into watch. You know, they could come over next week and have Joe could have learned some new words, or Blakely may have learned a new Bible verse, or I mean, it's just so neat to watch. We can stand back and watch them grow now. To when you have kids, you don't pay as much attention.
Well, you don't have as much time.
You don't to see just simple things. I think that we get to see because we're not living with y'all every day.
Mm-hmm.
So
we could, but
it brings a lot of joy. So it's phenomenal.
Well, and plus the fact to see that, like I told you, I deal with a lot of guilt on mine. That's just a personal issue I have. I beat myself up all the time, and to see Blake do what he's doing, and even see you as an uncle interacting on, but I say, okay, I did something right.
Mm-hmm.
I try to chalk up some of the things that I did that were the right things, instead of letting Satan have the control. And you did this wrong, you did this, and I guarantee you, I remember vividly the things that I did wrong.
Yeah. What's up, B?
I think you need to quit letting that hold you back so much.
I know.
You talk about that all the time.
I know I do. It helps me. I know I talk about it, but it helps me to realize it's there.
Yeah.
Because when I realize it's there, I'll pretty much I'll tell Satan, you have no power here. You're gone.
Put it under the blood. Ain't that what Chad said?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, and that's what I do. Tell him, leave.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, then Blake likes to remind me of some of the things I did wrong.
He's a picker, ain't he?
Yeah, he's a picker.
Yeah, he is.
You didn't announce to everybody that I can do comic relief for you.
Oh, my Lord.
That may be my calling.
If Dad started a dang podcast, just a spin-off comedy.
Weird Al.
Thing. He would have millions of downloads like within the first year. But
I just shake my head.
Chad is real good to poke fun at.
He's pretty easy, ain't he?
He is.
He don't make it too hard.
You ought to seen Blake making fun of me in here. He actually posted on Instagram today.
A video of me talking.
Me in here trying to figure out how to send an invoice on QuickBooks.
He was short-circuited.
I thought he was going to bust a blood vessel
I
last
missed
night
that.
on Resurrected. He was all red and the veins sticking up in his head.
Hey, ain't them calls fun though?
Oh, I love them. They're really good. I enjoy them.
I am enjoying it too, and I'm glad y'all are a part of it, man.
And you got an awesome group of people too.
Yeah,
I really
it's
enjoy.
Unbelievable.
It'd be really neat if we could ever get to where, like, everybody meet together somewhere.
Oh no, we're gonna do that. We're gonna rent a some sort of whether it's at Camp Highlands or we're gonna rent some sort of something where we can just have a weekend where we can just all come together.
Well, I'll tell those people right now, you're gonna have some good Southern cooking. Exactly what you're gonna have. So get ready.
You gonna let Dad smoke some barbecue?
Oh yeah, we can have that, but we can have some other stuff too. Some real Southern food that you probably never had before.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that'll be fun. No, that's been on my heart to do that,
Yeah.
actually, to get everybody together.
That'd be awesome.
But it's good to bring a group of people from just all over maybe the world, I don't know, United States, whatever. But,
yeah.
But to be able to have everybody there instant and communicating, because I look at the text, and so, man, you're gaining friendship. There so many number of things comes out of that.
I'll tell you
Awesome
what,
group.
I'm thankful. I'm so thankful for it, man.
That is, to me, that's the best example of the church that I've
Yes.
probably seen in my life. Just how everyone has came together. Now they know each other. They're talking to each other. We're not facilitating their conversation outside of that. They're doing all that on their own. They're having calls amongst themselves. They're helping each other out in different ways. And to me, that's the purest form of what the body of Christ is.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't really say anything on those or anything, but that's my gift to help. So if they ever need anything,
How about some good Southern cooking?
yeah, we can do that too.
Well, guys, is there anything else that's on your heart that you wanted to say or share or anything
my
like
list.
that? I know Mom made a bunch of
I know
notes
I
on
made
here.
some notes.
Like she knew what was going to be talked about.
You
I
know,
wasn't sure.
what do y'all remember? I ain't gonna say the worst thing y'all remember about us, but what is the best? What sticks out in y'all's mind to either individual or together as a parent? What seems to be foremost in your mind of y'all's childhood about us?
When you crapped yourself.
No, I think for me, as I really look back and break down the way that you guys brought us up, I haven't really thought back a lot of times at the opportunities that you guys gave us to develop work ethic. And we talked about that earlier in the podcast. And I just it's easy to look back on your childhood and say, well there was really. I thought everybody had an opportunity to develop a work ethic like that. But when you go in and you break it down and you say, no, my parents and my grandparents were actually doing this on purpose. They were giving me the opportunity to work because they knew it would pay off later on in life. And, having built that, I have to say that those foundational things are what have allowed me to achieve everything that I've achieved in life. Obviously, I've had to make certain decisions and have the courage to go. So that's a wonderful thing. I think that it's for me. I'm really thankful that we don't have to deal with trauma from our childhood. That we were never abused. We were never sexually abused. We were never left alone. We were never abandoned. We don't have to deal with any of that. I mean, that's a huge load that we don't have to carry, that millions of people have to carry, right? We don't have to carry that load. And I'm very, very thankful for that. And I know that took work to keep us, to protect us from things that would harm us. And you guys always did that. You were very cautious about who we went around, who
Yeah.
the whole 9 yards. I'd say specifically with Dad, I'm very thankful for when you encouraged me to have the heart surgery, to go through with my heart surgery that I had. And, I've told that story on all over the world. I mean, millions of people have heard that story of when Dad and I and Mom, you were in the car.
Mm-hmm.
We were riding to the hospital to have the surgery. And I remember, the way I remember it was I just asked Dad, do you really think I should go through this? And he just said, son, if you want to be a SEAL, you have to do this. You don't have a choice, which is very uncharacteristic for Dad because Dad doesn't like to get serious a lot. But in that moment, he got serious and he said, no, son, you don't have a choice. You have to do this. And I'm sure he didn't want me to go and have that surgery. He wanted me to hang out, and rightfully so. He wanted me to be a part of the family. I mean, I left the family for over a decade. Just left y'all. I barely talked to y'all. And he put his own wants and needs aside. He saw that I had something that I wanted to achieve. He saw the mountain that I was going to have to summit and overcome in order to get that, and he encouraged me to go that way. And I mean, I'll tell that story till the day I die. You know what I mean? Because when that comes, when that type of encouragement comes from your father, it's very impactful. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, a specific memory that's one for me. For Mom, I really, really appreciate. Again, she explained to you guys a lot about her example, right? She always upholds the standard. And I really appreciate the example that she gave us when we were young and very impressionable and spending most of our time with her. So her providing the example in all aspects, body, soul, and spirit, right? A elite athlete, triathlete, okay? Striving to graduate college and go to school and do something that was hard, sacrificing all of her time so that she could lay a good foundation for us as a family in the future if Dad experienced a time when he wasn't able to be a provider or a contributor monetarily to the family. And, you just really laid a solid example for us of not just what a strong woman should look like, but a strong human being, in all aspects, body, soul, and spirit, at an age where we were very, very impressionable, right?
Yeah.
And then I would say for both of you guys, one of the things that I'm most thankful for is you guys truly give us unconditional love. So you guys see everything that we screw up. You know every little part of our history, of our past, of our triumphs, of our failures, of our successes, everything. And I mean, I truly believe that no matter what I do from this point forward, that I can rely on the fact that you guys will always still love me and support me. Now, there's a lot of human beings out there that don't have people in their lives that they can feel that way about.
Yeah.
So it's a comforting thing, although I think it's a thing that I easily take for granted a lot of times. But it's a comforting thing to know that there are 3, if not more, people in my life that no matter what I did, they will unconditionally love me. They will help pick me back up and get me back on track. That's a wonderful thing to be able to have that because a lot of people don't have it.
Yeah.
Well, that helps you in your relationship with Jesus too, because if you don't have that modeled, what can you relate it to? You don't have anything that's comparable. So if you're thinking about unconditional love, I'm saying that by them doing that, not only gives you that sense of comfort that everything's fine with them, but probably subconsciously, you don't realize it, it is actually boosting and promoting your relationship with God, because now you can, to some degree, comprehend what that means in your relationship.
Yeah, that's true.
If you didn't have it, you would have no means of anything to compare it to.
Yeah.
So
of course there's hundreds of memories that I'm thankful for with you guys, but those are I think some with Dad, that specific memory was a very critical time in my life that propelled me in the right direction. And then for Mom, it was that solid foundation during those very impressionable years. So those are the two that if I had to pick, you shotgunned me with that question. If I have to pick right now, those are the two that I would fall back on.
I would say for me, just the overarching example that you set and the time spent with us. You know, Chad talked about we spent a lot of time with you when we were younger, but then as we got older, we spent a lot of time with Dad, you know, and anything, like, I can't recall any lesson that I've learned where, like you said, Mom, where I told you, hey, this is what you need to do, and it stuck out to me, and I said, all right, well, that's a lesson that I'm going to hang on to. But it's where you lived it over and over again, and even when you weren't learning a lesson, the time that was spent was like gaining, you know, you're gaining influence with you know, like just the little things like riding four-wheelers, or I remember when you used to go run, you'd bring back them little helicopter, I don't even know what they are. There's some kind of seed.
Little leaves.
And we'd get up on the porch and drop them off of there. And there's no lesson learned in that, but it's just the time that you spent builds that bond and builds that respect and influence, so that I have thought about parenting. It's overwhelming. Like, how can you get it right? But to me, if I simplify it down, if you focus on yourself, it would seem selfish. But it's not. You want to be the best you can so that you can live it out to your kids. Mm-hmm. And that makes it all easy. You don't have to tell them anything. Just live it out in front of them. And then, like you guys did, spend that time, that intimate time with them to gain an end with them. You know, because if you were living 100%, but you weren't spending any time with them, it doesn't matter. Mm-mm. So as I look back on it as an overarching thing, that's what I'm most thankful for, that you lived it out, that you did. I mean, both of you swayed back and forth. I sway back and forth with my kids. I mean, there's plenty of things I could do better, but you always kind of come back to center every time. And I just appreciate the intention. Yeah. And the intentionality behind everything that you did. Like, there was a reason you didn't have any alcohol in the house. There's a reason you didn't argue or have big fights in front of us. You know, there was reasons behind the things you did, why you did them. As far as specific examples, I'd have to think for a while on that. I got too many. How
about where I shot that deer out from under you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that.
You remember that?
Oh, yeah. I was done halfway down the ladder.
Not only shot a deer out from under us, he shot a dang turkey out from under us one time.
Well, you was messing around, too. I remember that pretty well. You was trying to put the old Rambo slip on him, and Dad said, come on, son, we're just going to shoot this turkey.
Hey, just popped up and shot it.
That was on my grandmother's.
Yes, son.
It was the day of my grandmother's funeral.
Yep.
That we went turkey hunting. That was that morning.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Sure was.
That's where I guess I can accredit all my desire for turkey hunting to his dad.
I was probably the best.
I told you
until I
selfish.
retired.
Shoot it out from under you.
No, the deer was Blake couldn't find the deer, and I wasn't about to let that deer get gone.
Oh, you missed it. Remember you shot that pine limb, and then we was about to leave, and he come out on the other side of the field.
And I got him, though.
Yeah.
Like you missed that armadillo.
Can I tell one little small thing since we're playing around?
Yeah.
You remember when you and someone else went turkey hunting, and it was the other person's first turkey hunt?
Me and Brian, wasn't it? Yeah.
You remember when y'all shot them crows that was eating on
they were buzzards.
Or buzzards.
Yeah.
You thought they was turkeys, and they was eating on a deer. Wasn't it a deer or something that we had shot?
Yeah, something dead in the field. We spent like 3 hours low crawling on our bellies up to the edge of this field and shot these birds, and they were buzzards. We thought they were turkeys. I probably shouldn't say this because it's illegal to kill a buzzard.
Well, you didn't know.
It was an accident.
You did. It was a turkey buzzard.
Yeah.
Oh.
That really happened. I want to ask y'all too, just to kind of wrap it all up, something recently that's happened in both of your lives. You've both experienced the loss of your fathers very recently. What can you tell us about that process? Because if we're all blessed enough to live long enough, we're all going to lose our father. So could you share something with us about that?
Well, I'd say losing my father, and it wasn't due to COVID. It was old age.
Both your fathers, yeah.
But that they died of old age. They got to live out a long life. And the number one thing I could say is be sure you spend time with them before it's too late. So, tell them anything you want to, because you never know.
Yeah.
But that, there's no easy way around it. It's just, that was easier for me in dying of old age than of, younger, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Because he was very sick anyways, suffered a bunch.
Yeah.
Well, mine was, you sort of sum it up. You said that his funeral, you preached his funeral, you and Blake both, and I don't know if Blake made the comment too, but you said it was easy to preach because you knew where he went.
Mm-hmm.
So that, to me, I was there with him when he died, and, when he passed away, that very moment, I just had a peace. So, it's hard when somebody goes, he lived all his life with polio, and he always used to say is, well, when I go to heaven, I'll have 2 good sets of legs. So a long story short, it was, you're going to miss your parents, but it is so nice to know that he is in paradise with his heavenly Father. I'm at peace with it.
Yeah.
Not that you don't miss or whatever, but it's, I'm cool with it. He's up there enjoying himself while we're stuck down here in this world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it is good to, yeah, that does make it much easier when a loved one passes, to know that, well, to have confidence that we all have eternal life. Mm-hmm. All of us that have accepted the free gift of salvation, doesn't cost you anything. Works don't get it, right?
Nope.
Doesn't cost you anything. That free gift of salvation. Now, you want to have a grand reward in heaven, go ahead and do a little work. That's going.
Oh yeah, get the crowns.
That's biblical. That's biblical.
Lay up the crown.
If you have a true relationship, that won't be hard.
Yeah. We talked about it last night on Resurrected.
Right.
Faith without works. So there are some expectations for some works as a portrayal of your faith, but your works do not earn your salvation. Mm-hmm. So that salvation is the most important part, because if you are in the presence of Jesus Christ for the rest of eternity and you're living under a lean-to, you're going to be much happier than you ever were on earth.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm not going to get off on a tangent, but just as much what you're talking about, the faith and the works, if you have the faith and you're living it, those works do come. A lot of times, we all get caught up, and we all need to be doing stuff for the Lord like we talked about, but just your actions is works that you don't even see every day. Whether it be something kind you do to someone.
Oh yeah.
That show, that is works. Yeah. You may not know it consciously.
It's not faith without results, is that it's faith without works.
Works.
Standard.
That's right.
Those works are starting to become much easier to identify, even those simple works, though, as society degrades. Those simple acts of kindness stand out much more, right?
Yeah, they sure do.
So,
we all got a mutual friend, and we've said it way back, even when none of us was living right, by just being in his presence, you knew he was a child of God.
Robbie?
That'd be Robbie Hall. That's what
Robbie Hall.
Yeah.
I mean, and he was always a blessing to me, even when I was a sinner. I mean, it's just the way he lived his life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyhow, that's another story. But we could talk forever on stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, This was great, man. This is one for the ages right here, and one that I just love it that we sit down and we take time to do this, because this is something that I don't really care who listens to this conversation. I think it's amazing to have it for Blakely and JoJo to listen to, 20, 30 years from now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because as long as we preserve this file, this audio file, it's not going anywhere.
Yep.
So it's a really cool opportunity to be able to sit down and be intentional about this time and just talking through our lives and our individual journeys and
well, there's things I learned in this conversation I didn't know. I hadn't learned them in 29 years.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, the Wright family doesn't sit down and have long emotional talks a lot of times. We generally just like to cut up and have fun.
Crap our pants.
They like to make fun. Y'all just like to make fun of me.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well you give it right back, son.
They make fun of both of us when we're not here, James.
You give it right back to us.
Goodness.
Thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day today to come and do this. Thank you guys for being who you are, for just, like Blake said earlier, always showing up, always coming back to center, always supporting us, and always literally, there's not a doubt in my mind that you would give us your very last possession.
Yep.
Even up to and including the cost of your life.
We sure would.
To preserve ours.
Yep.
So it's very, very special, and I'm thankful for that.
We're proud of y'all.
Blake, you got anything?
Nope.
Roger that. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Oh, again, go check Mom's stuff out, man. She's got some cool stuff. Go check it out.
You gonna put Dad's Instagram on there?
Oh yeah,
Etsy's
Dad's been
just-
posting here lately a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brooke, give me some grief because I use the same picture every time.
What were you gonna say, Mom?
It's the Etsy shop is Quilts That Count.
Okay. Well, I'll attach it.
Yep.
It'll be
Quilts
a
That Count.
clickable link. Y'all just go click it, check it out if you got kids. She does make some really awesome stuff. I know she's my mom. Maybe I'm biased, but no, she does really make some awesome stuff.
Yep.
She puts a lot of time and effort into it. So, that's a wrap for now. When Dad gets his ministry up and going, we'll throw his website in on here sometime within the next few months. We're gonna keep after him on that.
Yeah.
We know he's feeling something. So, all right, guys, this is the 3 of 7 podcast. Enough said.